Here are your hosts, RJ Young and Brandon Drumm.
What's up, folks? I'm RJ Young. That's Brandon Drumm. This is Young and Drumm, podcast presented by OUinsider.com. Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just got back from Cali, and then we had post-practice yesterday, and now we're podcasting. So it never ends. It's a bye week is no such thing in this when it comes to the journalism side of it.
Nah, man, that's 100%. So like you went to the game, I stayed at home. What was the trip like for you?
It was fun. It was interesting. We had a flat tire the last night we were there. There were gunshots that rang out right after we left the Rose Bowl.
Oh, word?
I guess 20 or 30 rounds apparently.
20 or 30
I guess
rounds?
somebody got stabbed too or something in the parking lot. I don't know. But it was right after we left. I had to look it all up. I don't know the whole story. And then, that was it. So, we had a good time. I know Joey and Colin went to an Angels game. I just stuck around the hotel room because I just didn't feel – I'm not a big Angels person, nor do I care to watch them play the Devil Rays, and they did. So that's on them. I don't care.
You don't want to go see Mike Trout, man?
He wasn't playing.
Oh, never mind. Okay. Pujols? Just I'm pulling.
I've seen Pujols play before. He's cool, but he's not like when I saw him play.
No, and I can understand why you would just want to stay put. What was traffic like for you? Because I heard horror stories.
It's awful. You sit in traffic the second you get there. It's really weird how they have it set up. So you land. And you have to hop on a van and drive on the tarmac to get to where you're they don't have a transit system like we do, or like most places with a trolley or a train. So you hop on these buses that are just nasty at the LAX. They're fixing that. They're building a train system for the Olympics in 2024, but I can't stand that airport. It's one of my least favorite of all time.
So what did you guys get in on Saturday, day of or day before?
No, we got in on Thursday evening.
Oh, did you catch any high school football?
No, I wanted to. They wanted to go to the Angels game, so I just went to the hotel.
Okay, all right. So
yeah, I had a chance to go watch St. John Bosco. I really wanted to go watch that game because they were playing Our Lady of Saint or whatever from Our Lady of Peace. I can't remember what it's called out of Maryland.
Oh yeah. And then, man, there's a 2020 kid out there, linebacker, outside linebacker.
Yep. Oh, he has a couple offers, a lineman from 2022 class. Yep, I wanted to go see it. I got overruled. They decided they wanted to, which I don't blame them. How often do you get to go watch that stuff? So
no, 100%.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So you get to the Rose Bowl and you set up shop. What do you think?
Pro OU crowd. Even the UCLA fans were there. They're dressed in UCLA gear just so they could be, cheer for the home team. But they were there to watch Oklahoma. Most of them. There wasn't much fanfare for the Bruins there. A lot of people were just there because they wanted to see Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, Kenneth Murray, and all those guys play, and that's just what it is.
No, that you don't really have a whole lot to look for it. You can look out there and see Chip Kelly on a sideline with a play card, and that's about it, man. I really wanted DTR to be good coming out of high school because the stories out of Bishop Gorman, and you come in after Tate Martell, and now both of those kids look like duds, and I'm like, I just really wanted him to be good, I really wanted to see Josh Kelly play well. I think Asai is going to be really good. But, we said that about tight end last year that played UCLA. It's really difficult to find things to be happy about with that team. Even when you're like, hey, Darnell Holmes is coming back for this game. Didn't matter. Didn't matter one bit. Because they're just bad. They're just really bad.
Yeah, they're awful. Defensively, they were totally outmatched. I'm watching the replays of just the offensive line, and they were burying the UCLA's defensive line. And the fact of the matter is UCLA's defensive line is loaded with talent. Now, obviously, they lost their star player last year who transferred out, Jacob. I can't remember his
Jalen
last
Phillips.
name. Jalen Phillips, yeah. Jalen Phillips. So
He's at Miami now.
yeah, that hurts, but at the same time, which I thought was really weird that he went to Miami. There was a lot of rumors around
After he retired. That was the other thing. Like, he retired from football.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of rumors that Oklahoma was a spot that he was really interested in because Oklahoma was one of his top schools coming out.
And Manny's here now, right? And Manny was the outside linebackers coach over there and helped recruit the kid who was number one in the country in 2017. So yeah, it's weird.
I think he just decided he didn't want to. I assume he just thought he just didn't want to be coached by Manning. I don't know. I mean, obviously Manning wasn't the guy, so I mean that also has a lot to do with it.
No, 100%. And
so at the position,
I thought perhaps like this would have had a little bit more trash to it, because Manning was on that staff last year. He's on this staff this year. You know something about UCLA that you might not have known, and we know that the coaches want to downplay it, just like they want to downplay all the stuff that they don't want to talk about. But I mean, it felt like we were just grasping for storylines with this game, and that's really a disservice when this was a game that a lot of people attended because they're like, hey, this is our away trip. This is the one, and we do the big OU away game or whatever that game might be. Like next year, it's going to be Tennessee here. And then Army at West Point, and I'm excited about that. Like I think I'm gonna go to that game. But
yeah. I can't wait for that game. I got a buddy that lives in New York City, and we're already set up, so I'm ready.
But with this game, we're just like, man, it's not just that they're bad. It's that you had that historic defeat by San Diego State in the Rose Bowl, and then you had UCLA's athletic department literally giving tickets away. Saying to anybody that if you were one of the 36,951 people who bought a ticket, here's 4 extra ones to give away. Please don't let us be embarrassed on national television. I'm like, yeesh.
Yeah, and they were embarrassed.
On
there
national
was more
television,
red. Yeah, there was more red than there was, I guess, as, what did Brian Bosworth call it? He called them wimpy blue or whatever they called. I can't remember what he called the powder blue at UCLA. He had something funny.
I'm sure it was comical, as was watching Jalen Hurts basically not just drive the length of the field by himself. He took the first play from scrimmage 53 yards, and he was gliding along, and he stepped out of bounds because he's been talked to about taking those hits and whatnot. But there's a couple stats that I found particularly interesting from the play of this game. One is first guy in 15 years to take an opening drive 99 yards to the house. And the second one is he finished that game recording more TDs this season than he has thrown in completions this season because he's just so good with the football. And even there were a couple drops there was at least one drop in the end zone where it's like, hey, Braden, that one hit you in the hands, dog. You got to pull that one in. Where, that counts as an incompletion for Jalen, but I think Pro Football Focus put out a stat that he's the most accurate passer so far this season, who had that one coming? Be you there? Uh-oh.
You hear me?
Now I got you now. Yeah, I got you.
I muted myself. That was my fault. I muted myself.
Okay. Okay.
No, I was. I just didn't want the loud background stuff going on while you were talking. So yeah, basically, he was considered non-accurate coming out of Bama, and all of a sudden now he's Mr. Accurate. It's funny how that works when you come to Oklahoma.
No, I'd been particularly critical of his ability to throw the ball down the field to the left side, right? And he made a throw that doesn't go into the stat book. Like, the Tyrese Robinson, I think, had his second holding penalty. And it was the opposite hash. He stood in the pocket. He delivered a strike across the field on an out or a comeback, I don't remember, to CD. And it was brilliant.
Yeah.
18 yards. And probably 25 yards through the air. And it was on a rope. And I was like, that's the throw I've been waiting to see that kid make all year.
Well, I mean, he's to me, he's shown that he's more than capable of making every throw. I think that when you start to overanalyze him is when you start to really find nitpicky problems with him. But you can do that with any quarterback, and that's just it. Like, he's being historically good right now, and yes, the competition hasn't been that great, but I mean, you can only play against who you got on the schedule. And when they scheduled the UCLA game, UCLA was really good, and that's the problem.
And you could say the same thing about Houston.
Yeah, they were really good when they were scheduled.
And that South Dakota game was originally the game. LSU, Texas was supposed to be LSU, Oklahoma, and we can get into that. But
think about the 2019 schedule when you have Houston. When you first saw a 2019 schedule, you saw Houston, LSU, and then you traveled to UCLA. Whoa.
No, they were trying to put together the kind of schedule that A&M just kind of lucked into.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and that right there would have been you got to just think about that. Think about just how much everybody would be talking about had that LSU game panned out, just how good Oklahoma's schedule is. Had LSU not backed out. I mean, you're talking about an epic out-of-conference schedule. It doesn't matter how bad UCLA is or Houston is. It's you put those names up there next to LSU, and everybody's going to go, oh, my God, Oklahoma's scheduled really tough. But now, with the optics because of South Dakota, it looks awful.
And I want to get into particularly good statistic, I think, and a way to look at the first 3 weeks of football that is going to make this OU, UCLA, South Dakota, and Houston scheduling look a little bit more sane after this. So, B, check it. I got this stat. And I found this stat to be just fundamentally fascinating because it also speaks to just how bad college football scheduling was this year. Not necessarily through anybody's fault, but still, you schedule the games, and your opponents suck. So my buddies over at College Football Nerds put together this stat, and I actually did the segment on the radio because I thought it was just so good because it takes some time. But only 35 teams have played in 3 FBS opponents through week 3. So that means there were only 35 that actually scheduled one of the 130 FBS teams. And then 88
in all three games, right?
Right, in all 3 games.
Okay.
And then 88 teams have played an FCS team, of which Oklahoma's one. So 88 of 130 decided to go down to go get a W. 24 teams have taken a week off in the first 3 weeks. So, like TCU, right? TCU is in the top 25 on the strength of a win against basically Purdue, and the same Purdue team that got beat by Nevada, and the same Nevada team that got housed by Oregon 77-6. And then 17 teams have only played 1 FBS opponent. And then think about this. One of those 35 teams that has played 3 straight FBS opponents, Clemson, A&M, Syracuse, and Georgia Tech. And we all know that Georgia Tech is basically an FCS team this year because they got beat by Citadel, right? But you're also looking around, and I think it says something that we're talking about the Big 12 as the best conference in college football based on how it went through the last week of what we're calling non-conference scheduling, in that, I mean, we're going to have more non-conference games, and we put that out there. But Kansas going to beat BC at BC is a big deal. It's a big deal. West Virginia, which was picked to finish at the bottom of the league with Kansas and Kansas State, getting a W at home against NC State is a big deal. And then, of course, Kansas State, who I've been extremely high on from jump, went down to Starkville and got a W. So knowing all these stats that I just thrown at you and knowing what you saw this weekend, What do we expect the Big 12 Conference's reputation to be in like a month? Because you got Oklahoma State, Texas this weekend, which, by the way, is a really good game. I'm excited about that because I was at TU and Oklahoma State, and Chuba Hubbard is the goods.
You would think that a month from now, the problem the Big 12 is going to run into, but every conference is going to run into them beating up on each other. But with Oklahoma, well, obviously Oklahoma has been undefeated out of conference, but with the rest of the Big 12 doing what they did out of conference, that's going to start to pay off dividends once you see Mississippi State upset somebody in the SEC and stuff like that. That Kansas State win is going to pay off because it's going to be, okay, well, say a Texas or Oklahoma beats a K-State and they beat them handily. And we all know that games aren't transitive, right? Like the one game doesn't translate to the other game. But in our minds, we do that all the time. We all do it. We're like, well, they beat this and they beat that, or blah, 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 blah. And that's going to look good for the Big 12 because the Big 12 has handled their business out of conference and the games that they needed to handle their business. And it's going to pay off. It's going to make the Big 12 look a lot better. There's a lot of talk that the Big 12 might be the second best conference. I mean, top to bottom, the Big 12 may be the best, but even top heavy, the Big 12 may be second best right now. Better than the Big Ten, and that's saying something after week 3 because not a lot of people thought that going into the season.
No, I think you made a really salient point when you're talking about what this win could do when it comes time for, each of these teams to beat up on each other. Like I've been critical of the round robin schedule because it kind of prevents you from having 4 and 5 teams that are ranked in the top 25 because we're talking about Alabama playing South Carolina for the first time in 10 years. It's like, what? And we get, we can get into the SEC versus Big 12 and how they schedule. But I also think that having a good Kansas State is always helpful to you as a Big 12 conference because that's a team that's consistently picked to be in the middle, the bottom, never at the top, right? We're not really ever thinking about Kansas State as being a juggernaut program. We're thinking about Oklahoma, Texas, and then we'll see. And we'll see usually turns out to be TCU or Baylor here of late. We expect Iowa State to be in the mix this year in a big way, but I do think that having Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Baylor, Iowa State all be 7 to 8 win teams or have that quality is tremendously helpful because, the other part about it is Kansas State has Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Texas basically left. Like I think they could beat Oklahoma State on a given day. That game's going to be a lot of fun. I think they could beat Baylor and Iowa State, Kansas, West Virginia, Texas Tech, especially since Texas Tech is going to be without Alan Bowman for some time. And they're either going to have to start Jet Duffy or a dude at Rice who played for 3 years and barely threw 4,000 yards and has never thrown for 50% completion percentage in his entire career. But you know what? He's really tall and he's really big. I'm like, all right, whatever. So like Matt Wells' season kind of went down the tubes with the loss to Arizona Pac-12 after dark. But I do think we're talking about what? 5 teams that legitimately could be good this year?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. It's
That
phenomenal.
is when half your conference is potentially a top 25 team, you're doing it right. I mean, 2015 was a prime example of the Big 12 doing that exact thing, and look what it did for Oklahoma in the playoffs because Oklahoma went into the last week of the season ranked like 6th or 7th, if I remember correct, and they beat Oklahoma State, who was ranked 9th for the Big 12 title, and they jumped 2 teams to get in, 2 or 3 teams. I can't remember what it was like, but I know they had to jump somebody to get in, and everybody kind of already knew that they were going to do so going into that, and they may have been 4th. I can't remember, but I'm pretty positive they were trying to get into the playoffs at that point, and they made a jump. I think they went from 5th to 3rd, if I remember correct, or something to that extent. But they got into the playoffs because of how deep the Big 12 was. And yes, Oklahoma State played with J.W. Walsh instead of had a broken foot.
Rudolph?
I can't remember. Rudolph, yeah.
Mason Rudolph.
Was it Rudolph? Was it Mason Rudolph?
It was either Rudolph or shell for Lunt, but it might have been I got nothing.
Yeah. J.W. Walsh was their quarterback, and that wasn't good. Oklahoma killed them 50-something to 17 and proved that they were the best team in the Big 12. They had the number one defense in the Big 12 that season. But my point is that they had 5 or 6 teams that were considered really good that year, and that paid off for Oklahoma in the season because you had Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas, Oklahoma, and I think K-State was considered pretty good that year, or West Virginia. West Virginia was one of the two. So those wins paid off for Oklahoma, and obviously the win at Tennessee ended up being a huge win at the end of the year. And look, that is essentially what we're talking about. The Big 12 has to be deep. It has to be deep for Oklahoma to be considered one of the top teams in the country, and or Texas has got to be good. Those are your options.
I think that this game between Oklahoma State and Texas this weekend is going to say a lot about that one way or the other, because I'm looking at Oklahoma's schedule, and right now, if you just looking at strength of schedule and you're looking at rankings, and it's on par with Clemson's schedule, right? Because teams that you thought were going to be good are not good. Or it could be one of these things where Oklahoma plays these teams all when they're unranked, which is on the table if Oklahoma State beats Texas, because that's 2 losses, and your 2 losses would be to teams that we think are really good. But in particular, there's just this thought in my head, man, that a good Texas team unranked does not help Oklahoma when they play. A good Oklahoma State team unranked, which they are right now, but I think they should be in the top 25, doesn't help Oklahoma State, or doesn't help Oklahoma. Same thing with Iowa State, same thing with Kansas State. Like, I'm looking at their schedule and the way that it stacks up, and I'm going, it's not inconceivable for them to play each one of these teams when they're unranked, because they will have played, tough opponents before they get to Oklahoma. So, if you're Oklahoma and you have a loss, and right now, they're undefeated, I get it, but they have not made it through the month of October undefeated since 2004. Like, what are you going to do? I mean, we're going to look at your strength of schedule as a neutral observer, as somebody who doesn't watch a lot of Big 12 football, and go, we'd rather have Ohio State in there, because they did play 3 FBS opponents in non-conference. Like, they got – look at it. Like, they got FAU, they got Cincy, they got Indiana. And now they're going to get – their third non-conference is going to be Miami of Ohio, which, is decent enough when you're talking about what's the piss-poor game on your schedule that's out of your control, or that's in your control. What's the piss-poor game on Oklahoma's schedule? It's a bad South Dakota team. It's a winless FCS team. Like, this is not the year that you need the Big 12 to be soft. It's just not. Yeah,
do we expect it to be soft? I really don't. I understand they're going to beat up on each other, but I think the weight of the out of conference is gonna weigh with their rankings, so they're not going to get docked as much as losing as they normally would in conference, in my opinion.
Yeah. So now that we got that out the way, because I feel like we can go circular here. What were your takeaways from UCLA? But before you tell me, we want to get this in here. KB, what were your takeaways from UCLA?
I would say, look, they handled their business. They did what they were supposed to do. And Jalen Hurts was really good. We all thought he was going to be really good. The defense continues to show progress. I think there's some problems at the safety spots. Once they get all that shored up, I think the defense could be really good at some point in time during the season. But that safety position, it could be a make or break for Oklahoma, especially in the Big 12, as pass heavy as it is, because that could. We saw it last year. The safety spots was a question, and it ended up killing Oklahoma, especially when it came to West Virginia and a deep ball. Even with Kansas, it was just not a good year for the safeties. So they need to get that shored up. I'm sure Alex Grinch is probably going to be working tirelessly during the bye week to figure out something for those 2 spots. And if they can get it figured out, this defense has a chance to be pretty good. I think the front seven is really deep and really good. I think the cornerbacks are pretty good. I just think the safety spot there's a question mark there, and that could be a question mark that you really don't want to have those type of question marks leading into the conference and even going into the title game or the playoffs, because you're going to face a bunch of pass-heavy teams from here on out.
I was actually disappointed to know that that's the weakness of the defense.
It is super disappointing.
Well, I mean, it's disappointing to me just because he's a safeties coach and he is the safeties coach. They're his kids.
Yep.
That's his position group. And if there was a knock on Stoops that a lot of people agreed on, it was, yo, man, we need to let you just call the defense. You don't need a position anymore. It's too much. And then it was the whole moving up to the box thing and so forth, so on. And I'm not at all saying that Alex Grinch is in any way like Mike Stoops. I'm saying that it's disappointing to see the same story get played out. And I understand that you're young back there, right? Delarian Turner-Yell didn't play a whole bunch of ball last year, but when he did, he got torched.
Patrick Fields.
Yeah, and Pat Fields looked good in the Orange Bowl, but, against UCLA, and then he didn't look good. South Dakota, he had some stupid penalties. And Delarian Turner-Yell is a linebacker playing safety. So the idea that you don't have a guy back there that you trust yet, it's like, man,
Well, I mean, he's hinted on it all offseason. He said he does not like where his safeties are at. He said it over and over and over and over, and now we're seeing it play out during the season.
Well, and that also, I'm looking at the guys behind him. I'm like, okay, I get that you want Chance Sylvie there to cover up for Buki, but Credell's natural spot is safety. You move Woody Washington from his natural spot of corner to safety. Jamal Morris is back there. Like that, none of these guys have reached the point where you feel comfortable throwing them back there, to play games when you're, within two scores or one score. It speaks volumes about the depth at the position. Now, it'll probably change because, with this 2020 class, he gets guys he wants. But I'm with you. You're going to get exposed at that position. It's awful, because the thing that I see the most, and one of the things that I'm going to pay attention to when I go down to Georgia this week, is how does Notre Dame play with its safeties? How does Georgia play with its safeties? And they can go too deep at Georgia. I know that for a fact, right? Notre Dame, we're going to find out because Kyle Hamilton is really, really good. And I can't wait to watch what he looks like. But at the same time, I'm going, Notre Dame is in the same spot that Oklahoma is. Your defense ain't great. It's not bad, but it ain't great. Like, I'm the first person to point out, because I charted the data, Oklahoma is allowing just 2 of 20 on 3rd and long, which is 37 or more. That's huge. That's massive. You also giving up just 9 of 37 third downs, period. So if you get people in third down situations, you're going to win a bunch of them. But what we're finding out about good college football teams is they don't see a lot of third downs. They do a lot of work on 1st and 2nd down. And by the way, OU's one of them. Like, I think I'm right in saying this. OU's offense has seen fewer third downs than the defense because they just pick up chunks. They can go whole drives without ever seeing a third down. And that's the kind of offense that you're going to have to stop, even in the Big 12. Like, Oklahoma State can do that. Texas can do that. We'll wait and see if Baylor can do that. But, I mean, there's at least 3 or 4 teams in this conference other than Oklahoma that I think can really mess you up on the back end.
Oh, they can do more than mess you up. They can score points in chunks, and you're going to be left having to do exactly what you had to do last year, and that is play touchdown for touchdown and hope that your defense hopefully makes a play for you at some point in time during the game, because if they don't, you're liable to lose it. So that's not the position you want to be in. Again, I don't think this team will be in that position just because I think the front seven is that good and it will cause more problems than they ever did last year, especially on passing downs, because I think Grinch is he's gonna pressure. I mean, he's gonna be more aggressive. So you're gonna see more plays. You're gonna see more turnovers. But there's with that aggressiveness comes the liability of giving up a big play, and sorry, OU fans, you're going to see that too. So you got to be prepared for all that come conference play.
Is the offensive line any good?
I think they're young. I think they have a chance to be really good. I think they're very talented. I think that. I mean, obviously Tyrese Robinson had a tough game last game with the penalties, but other than that, they seem to. Look, Beanbo seemed more happy, and so did Coach Riley with the offensive line performance this past week than they did against South Dakota. So we all know UCLA is better than South Dakota, and
We think.
well,
They're
they
more
are.
talented for sure, but I don't know if they're
Yeah,
better.
so that I guess that's
Well,
what I'm
I say
saying.
that they're more talented, but like I think I'm the only person beating this drum, and I think people just kind of want to roll their eyes. But do you remember the defensive end that was beating the hell out of Eric Swinson in South Dakota game?
Yeah.
That guy was an All-American last year. All right, Darren Greenfield. So when you say that they're better, I'm going. I watched Jeremiah Hall take apart their bookend on this GT counterplay that they love to run so much, that's been written about so much. He just sealed it. He mashed that kid. That wasn't happening against South Dakota, particularly at that end spot. So I'm not comfortable saying that it's a better football team just yet, because they were able to do more. Like, they were actually able to move the ball. Like, you can say quick strike, you can say air raid, you can say whatever, but they moved the ball. Like they did. And they did get into the backfield. They did make Eric Swinton look bad. And quite honestly, that game probably lost R.J. Proctor his starting position. So,
Yeah.
like when I said any good, I can see how that sounds a little harsh, because 300-yard rushing games in the first 3 games. So they're stupid talented. But when I say are they any good, are they technically sound? I mean, the only guy that we haven't actually picked on outside of Creed Humphrey, because, Creed is Creed, is Adrian Ely. Like, Ely's been a rock at right tackle. Nobody said diddly squat about him. And that's what I mean. It's like, obviously, he really wants Marquise Hayes out there. He likes Tyrese Robinson out there. And he's prepared to just make Eric Swinson starting left tackle, and that's going to be his group, with Proctor, I guess, being able to work in at guard or tackle as needed. But that's the group. Like, that was the one thing that just became clear out of all of this, is Beanbo has picked his guys, and they're going to be his guys for the year, and he needs them to play a bunch of snaps together to get good. And that's what I meant by are they any good? And if you're seeing,
Yeah, I mean, they will be. I think, but we ask the same freaking question every year, the first 3 games. And then come Texas, or a little after Texas, they turn into the best unit in college football. So I find myself just looking back to the past. I mean, all the way back to 2015. I'm like, okay, well, we had these same questions then. We had the same questions in 2016. We had the same questions in 2017, 2018. To start the year, we knew they were going to be good, but they weren't always playing as good as they could. And at some point in time, they found it and they clicked and they became the best offensive line in football each and every year. So you kind of figured that's going to happen just because historically it has happened. And that's kind of where my thought is at. Like, I think he's recruited so well that I find it hard to believe that eventually at some point in time during this season, they're not going to be very, very good and cohesive at the same time.
So moving on to the bye week, it's what you and I are going to call it, but I thought both Grinch and Riley were just kind of, they were put out by the, well, how dare you call this a bye week? It's
We still got work to do.
Yeah, it's a game we don't play a game, or it's a week we don't play a game, and Grinch going, the opponent this week is called bye, and I'm going, man, I hope these head games work with kids, because they don't work with me. Like, I'm an adult. It's like, I get it. We got to work, and I love to work, and I will hustle, but don't treat me like an idiot. Like, I don't need to have the psychological warfare to try to get in the zone, dude, with you saying that the opponent this week is called bye, and we're out to perform better. I'm like, no, just call it what it is. It's a bye week. It's fine. You can say that we have a lot to work on. Like, I think toward the end of his session, Riley actually kind of got into the reel about it, just going, hey, look, there's fires to put out all the time. We're never done. I I know that there's a lot to be excited about, but we also, I mean, he didn't say this. I am paraphrasing. When he said we got a lot of work to do, it almost felt like he was saying we suck in some areas. Like we just haven't been exposed in these areas where we know that we're not good. And also just I do get trying to get into a kid's head, right? Because they do know what we say. I have kids that go through my mentions all the time and like and don't like tweets, and I got kids that go into my DMs to say stuff all the time. And you know what? Not all of them play in the Big 12, okay? Like, the kids, they're reading it and they're listening to it. And as a coach, I understand that's another opponent for you to face in a meeting room, right? Because you'll get torn up if you're, say, Kenneth Murray Jr. about being out of this gap. And he was a couple times against UCLA. That you just misread this. But then you'll go and read Twitter or see an article or a video where we are lauding
how
you
good
for,
you are.
right?
Yeah.
Where you're destroying somebody, and you know it's like, wait a second. So I get that. I also.
The kids know it's a bye week, bro. They're leaving on Thursday. Come on, they're off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Have to be back Sunday to start working for Texas Tech again.
And he said
it's a bye week.
And more,
whether you want to call them
right. And to that end, right? Because we're going to do a little recruiting at the end of the week. I'm like, yeah, no S, Sherlock. You guys, you have to like this. You got to be at games on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Like, I get it. Like, you don't have to sugarcoat it. So it's interesting to see what Riley and the staff want to harp on and what they don't, because they clearly have things that they want to get across, and there are clearly things they don't want to talk about. And all the stuff that we want to know is the stuff they don't want to talk about.
Yeah, of course, because that's the inside. That's the good stuff, and they know that we know the good stuff behind the scenes, and they don't. If they don't say something about it, it makes it harder for us to write about it or talk about it and do the things that we need to do for our job, and that's fine. That's fair. But when I have Ronnie Perkins going, yeah, I'm leaving on Thursday afternoon to go home, I'm like, okay.
On tape. Oh my God, I was. It's little stuff like that you and I and beat writers are gonna just laugh at, and I think a lot of other people aren't necessarily gonna think something of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm leaving Thursday afternoon to go home, and I'm gonna go watch my alma mater play a high school football game, and then I'm going to watch my brother on Saturday. And then I'm coming home I'm coming back to Norman straight from his game because I have to be here to go to start doing practice and treatment and tape and all that other stuff on Texas Tech. Okay, well, it's called a bye week. You should be able to go home and do all that and come right back and start working the second you get back into town. I mean, that's what this week is for. But the crazy part is how healthy Oklahoma is going into this bye week. I cannot remember a year in the past 7 or 8 where they've been this healthy through three games. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, and I always thought that was the thing that nobody wants to talk about because they believe in curses and jinxes. Is, you know, you got all your running backs save T.J. Pledger and you get him back, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you lost nobody.
Kenneth Mann, you get him back.
Well, and offensive line. When's the last time we've been able to look at the offensive line and be like, hey, there's an injury there? Think about that.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, it's been a while, huh?
Right, and I think that is the sauce. The sauce is you haven't lost the quarterback, you haven't lost the offensive line, and you haven't lost a wideout really.
Or a D lineman or anybody like that. But you're gaining a D line, actually. A really good one, too.
And when you lost Hollywood Brown, it kind of showed up, but it kind of didn't. Because what Riley learned most about the Orange Bowl is that he should have started Rambo. It's just, you know, that's about it.
They're running the exact same plays with Rambo that they did with Hollywood, and you're seeing the exact same thing happen because what I try to tell people, he isn't as shifty as Hollywood, but he's in the same speed category as him. They're both 4.3, low 4.3, like 4.31 guys. So I think, didn't Rambo run like a 4.29 or something, or was that Brown? I think it was Trey Brown. Ran a 4.29, but I know Rambo was really low on the 4.3.
I got them both at 4.3s because neither one of them could produce 4.29 again.
That was probably their best.
No, I'm a stickler. Yeah, well, like you got to do it twice. I mean, if it's track and field, cool, we got you on laser. But I mean,
well, they have them. They do the laser. That's where they do the 40s are lasered. But
I haven't seen it. Right? Like, did
Yeah.
you see it?
Well, I saw the number.
Oh, that's
I just didn't.
well, okay. I'd say that.
I mean, but that being said, they're going to take the best number
Hey.
and make that their 40.
All
You
right.
know that. I know that.
Okay. All right. So, let's assume that they're both 4.29 for the time being.
Well, no, they're not. But they're not. Okay, they're not going to consistently be it. Like you said, if they ran it again, they would run a 4.3 something.
I'm not going to let you hedge on this one, B. They're either 4.3 guys or they're 4.29 guys.
I said they were 4.3. I said they're probably 4.3. I said one of them ran a 4.29 one time. That's what I said.
Okay, we're arguing about this now, and I think it's important to argue about it. That's why I'm keeping this going. Do you accept the 1.429 or do you accept the 2.43? Okay, that's what right.
No, because it's
like
not
if you got to walk out
enough.
here and say 4.29 to somebody and you're going to get a quizzical look, you got to be rock solid.
Well, I mean, they'd have to do it more than. I mean, like
See?
I said, they're going to take their best number that they ran and say that's their time. That's how fast they are.
Yeah,
when in reality, that's not what they're going to run every time. They're probably going to run the 4.3s every time.
I'm a track and field guy, and that's why I was like, do it twice. Okay. All right, cool. Do it twice.
Well, but I mean, they take records. Is this guy going to break it? Is this guy going to run his record
You're
again?
hedging.
No, but I'm asking a serious question. Is track and field like are they going to take when they do the records? Do they go, well, he only ran it once. He probably couldn't do that again. Or do they allow the record to stick?
No, they let the record stick. And by the way, it's track and field. We all saw you do it.
That's true.
That's really what I'm getting at is if there are eyes on you, there are multiple eyes on you, and there are lots of people walking around going 4.29, it's the truth. If you ran it in front of Bennie Wiley and Caesar, fine, cool, good for you. I didn't see it. You know, that's what we do. I'm just acknowledging what we do. And you know what?
Yeah, but we know they're 4.3, so we can agree
we can agree that they're 4.3 guys, right? We can agree on that because we've seen it. You know, we've seen that.
They fly.
Yeah, we've seen that. Speaking of seeing that, Trey's gotten bigger. Brown. He's gotten bigger.
Yeah, he is. He's thick. Yeah, he's thick now.
And he was kind of pissed talking about his missed tackles. He's like, I know I can tackle. Like, we didn't even bring it up. We didn't bring it up. I swear to you.
He's known as the most physical guy in the secondary.
No, but still, like, he was like, you know, what are your expectations for you? He's like, the team or individually? So he goes, team, and then I say individually. And he starts to rant about how he knows he can tackle. And I was like, in my head, I'm going, we all know you can tackle. I know you missed a couple against UCLA, but he was adamant. And I was trying to keep it together because he was getting antsy. It's like, hey, man, you're working your own self up. We didn't do this.
Well, he goes back to what he said whenever I asked. I said, so what about the mentality, about the defense? What about how the players are reacting to certain things? And he said, the funny thing is the coaches don't have to say anything to us now. Like, we know we hold each other accountable, and that's the difference. He said last year the coaches would have to tell us, hey, you did this wrong. You need to fix this, fix that. He said, he goes, Grinch and Odom and Manning have already gotten our heads and told us, we've got to do this. Like, before they say it, we're telling each other, you've got to fix this. He goes, that's the difference between last year and this year. And that kind of goes back to what he's talking about, being mad about tackles, because he knows he's going to get in trouble come film time talking about tackling. I got to make these tackles. This is my job. I screwed up, blah, 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 blah. You didn't see that type of stuff last year. You didn't see them openly come out and criticize themselves. That's the difference.
It's also really hard to criticize each other when you all rank 129th in pass D and 118th in third down defense. Like, it's going to be like Spider-Man pointing at, each other.
They're 11th. They're 11th this year in third down defense.
I'm aware. I put that stat out there and somebody wrote about it. And now I need to keep my mouth shut because I was going to write about it. I probably still will. But, like, hey, I'm taking wins where there are wins for this defense because they desperately need
They have
wins.
to.
Yeah.
They have to take them. So as writers, we have to take it with them because at the same time, if we're going to sit there and bash them and every little thing that they do wrong, we have to praise them and the good that they do as well.
Yes, I agree. I'm going to add to that and say we're the best critics because we actually watch every minute of this stuff. Like, what I've found myself doing, especially since I got this radio show, and trying to just do a better job of basically talking college football is I find myself going back to watch so many games. Like, I watched Cal Washington again after getting home late.
Ooh.
No, but it's educational because, like, seriously, I understand now. Cal is Michigan State West. You know, they have this
Yeah.
outstanding defense, and they got this offense that just can't get out of its own way. It's almost like watching the 2000 Ravens. You're like,
so
sweet.
weird from Cal. So weird.
Well, but it's also, you know, Justin Wilcox essentially did a year ago, or this year, what Mark D'Antonio did this year, which was just rearrange the staff. He didn't fire anybody. He just gave them all different jobs. And it's just, it's weird, but, you know.
It's way weird.
I'm pointing that out just to say I feel much more comfortable, like, being critical of Oklahoma because the people that are lauding them, for the most part, ain't watching a whole lot of OU football. And we're good at saying Jalen Hurts is good, right? But so is everybody else. I think part of the gig here is being able to understand why Jaden Davis is going to play a whole hell of a lot more football.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Right?
I mean, when you have Trey Brown going, I feel sorry for the Big 12 offenses for the next 2 to 3 years because he's going to be here and be a nightmare for them. That's what he said.
Right.
I mean, if your teammates are saying you're freaking good, dude, like you're really good, we're going to admit to you, bro, you're a freshman. I'm a junior. I'm pretty good. Everybody has me all conference. This is Trey Brown talking. But damn, homie, you're good. Like that's different. That's different.
I'm gonna pull your dude's card and say not everybody has him all conference because he didn't make that team preseason.
Well, you understand, but
Yeah,
the people do have him all conference.
No,
Some people do, some people.
The best corner at Oklahoma is Parnell Motley, and I've been.
Hey,
who been?
Hey, you and I have been on Parnell Motley forever because he's been a boomer bust guy. We like his booms. People did not like his bust.
Hey, it ain't us anymore. And that's what I mean by the whole
everybody's
aspect
on
of
him
lauding
now.
him.
He's
It's
great,
like,
right?
because I was like, the dude just needed to get his head around. Like we saw that last year. I was like, man, if he ever gets coached how to get his head around, he's there to make a play every single time. He is. It's just now he's making them. You know, and if you got to wait till you're, redshirt junior, redshirt senior?
Redshirt senior.
Yeah, redshirt senior. I mean, fine, whatever. You know, I would rather it happen now than not at all. One of the things that I want to get to before we close this thing out, recruiting, because we haven't had a whole hell of a lot to say, or I haven't had a whole hell of a lot to say. You've been on it with Alfred and whatnot, but run it down, dog.
Oklahoma has a pretty good shot of getting a commitment this week at some point. What is today? I would say by Thursday evening, you should know the news whether Oklahoma is going to get a commitment or not, because Aaron Parks is 4-star out of the Washington, D.C. area is announcing. Obviously, his buddy Harrison has already announced that he's going to be there with Oklahoma.
Big Anton.
Big Anton Harrison's got it. And so they're friends. They know each other, and they came and visited together. And I would say right now Oklahoma is the odds-on favorite against North Carolina and Alabama, and that's pretty good company to win out on. And then you have to also look at where Oklahoma is with Jaquez Robinson. Jaquez Robinson verbatim told me straight up, like, if Oklahoma proves that they're halfway decent throughout the whole year on defense, it's going to be hard for me to tell them no. Like, he's committed to Bama, but he loves Oklahoma and he loves Coach Manning. His family really, really liked the visit. I will tell you that South Dakota, it was a small visit weekend, but it was a big weekend for Oklahoma as far as being able to gather commitments. And then obviously 2021, you've got 2 5-stars down, and we've talked about this on OU Insider. If you haven't read it, I swear it's really good as far as I talked about the 2021 class as well, and my last in-depth update that I put up on, Friday. And I can tell you Oklahoma has a chance to have a special class in 2021 on both sides of the ball. And that's because, one, some of the stars that they're after are in state. They're in their backyard. I mean, that last time that happened was 2017. In 2018, they had a couple of D linemen that were, obviously with Oklahoma in their own backyard. But, I mean, that 2017 class really propelled that OK Prep's 2017 class really propelled Oklahoma's class and they started the trend where Oklahoma's really doing a lot better on the recruiting trail, and it's stuck. So this class, the 2021, is really deep in state. There's a chance that Oklahoma offers even a couple more guys. But the ones that they have offered, they lead on. And you have the Ethan Downs, you have the Kendall Daniels of the world, you have the AJ Greens of the world. Those type of guys are 4 high 3-star, top 100 guys, depending on who you're talking about. Potential, all of them will probably be a 4-star by the time their senior year's over. So Oklahoma really has a good nucleus in state. And then you add Vandegrift out there in the southeast area recruiting like crazy, and he's got 2 5-star wide receivers with Oklahoma leading right now. It'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. But they have a chance to land 2 5-star wide receivers in Agaye Hines and Mario Williams out of the Tampa Bay area. So in one of them, Agaye Hall, sorry, not Hines, Agaye Hall went to the same school as Eric Stryker at Sefner, Armwood. So that is a big deal. Everybody really, really likes Oklahoma in that area. And the fact that it's a top flight wide receiver, Oklahoma already has the number 1 quarterback in that class, potentially the number 1 player in the class committed to him. Things are going to fall into place in this 2021 class, and it has a chance to be really, really special. And that's the thing, like the OU 2020 class will likely be a top 10 class. But you want to know what? It doesn't have that quarterback that everybody has, so it's not going to be as flashy as the other classes that Oklahoma's had in the past. But it's still a good class.
All right, I think that is going to do it for us. That's Brandon Drumm. I am RJ Young. If you like the podcast, rate, review, subscribe. You know what it is. You can follow us on Twitter, my man Brandon at BrandonDrum247. I'm at RJ_Young. You can follow OU Insider on Twitter at OU247. We write there every day. We're on this stuff all the time. And I understand that you want to see more podcasts. Well, subscribe to the show. Brandon, parting thought.
It's a bye week. Time for us to go out and see some high school kids Thursday, Friday. And you'll be down in Georgia. Enjoy that atmosphere down. What do they call that place down there? I always forget in Athens. It's like the bushes or whatever.
Between the hedges.
Between the hedges, yeah. See, I can't ever remember the hedges part, but that's one of my
I'll tell Uggy you said
bucket lists. Oh, I would want a pet Uggy. I want a bulldog. I really do. Like that's the English bulldog is one of the bulldogs that I really want. Amy says no, so we'll have to hold off on that. But yeah, man, enjoy it. I'll be out at the high school games. Colin will be out at high school games. So we'll have some recruiting information Saturday, Sunday, Monday-ish on OU Insider. So stay tuned.
All right. Deuces.
See ya.